morning, people.
Good morning. That was our new
Nice.
intro. Pretty cool.
Yes, thank you, man.
It makes us look like we know what we're doing.
That's not gonna happen.
If only they knew.
That is not gonna happen.
Yeah, so everybody, welcome to Table for 7 Billion. We've got more questions today. We've got more questions than we've even got answers. But we're going to answer these questions. These are questions that are, as I always say, they're real questions. It's the answers that are fake.
Right.
These were asked by students at Kitchen on Fire over the years. They've filled these out in their exit questionnaire, and they've all had questions.
Those are real students, right?
What?
Those are real students, right?
Real students, real questions, pretend answers. So no, they're real answers. They're almost always truthful. So the first question, people have wondered about this a lot, and because I've written about cheese for so long, people are always asking me cheesy questions. And this one is basically, why are the question is about cheese color, and why are some cheeses really orange and some aren't? And this is particularly true with cheddars, where you've got two cheddars that kind of taste the same, but one is orange and one is, sort of a pale yellow color. And why is that? Well, we don't know. We have no idea. No, we do. We do know. We do know. The cheeses that are orange.
We just find out.
I mean, it is true that cheeses that come from summer milk that's been, cows that have been grass-fed, that have eaten primarily grass, are going to have more color than other cheeses because of the beta carotene in the grass. It will color them. That's why sometimes butter can be very, very yellow, although butter is also routinely colored to make it look better.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes it's colored too, right?
But there is some coloring going on, and actually, as coincidence would have it, my friend Janet Fletcher, who does a cheese blog called Planet Cheese, comes out once a week, I think. It's a really good little. It's just a short little article. She always does on cheeses, and she usually does recipes.
Huh? Can you have her on the show someday?
Yeah, we could. Anyway, she just did an article on the color of cheese, and so I was reading it, and it was interesting. She had some interesting historical takes on it. But basically, what's used today to color cheese is what's called annatto, ANNATTO. In Mexico, in the Yucatan, it's called achote. No, you can't bark. I have a big dog here today. No, you can't.
Oh, it's not you.
No, you can't bark. You can't bark. She thinks she knows a lot about cheese, but she doesn't at all. No, Rosie, no. There's an old joke about the guy that his car breaks down in front of this farmhouse, and a cow wanders over, and he's got the hood up, and he's looking in the hood, and the cow wanders over and says to him, I think it's the carburetor. The guy's freaked out, and he runs up to the farmhouse. He bangs on the door. The farmer comes to the door, and the guy says, I got to tell you, your cow just said, I think it's the carburetor. And the farmer looked down at the cow, and he goes, oh, Bessie doesn't know shit about cars.
I know, right?
And that's what I think about you, Rosie. You don't know anything about cheese. Anyway, annatto is a very hard red seed that's grown in the tropics, and it's been used for literally centuries to color cheese. She quoted the food scientist Paul Kinstead from the University of Vermont. He's a cheese historian and a professor there. And he said that English cheesemakers started using it in the 17th century to trick people, because they figured out that if they could, now this was a long time ago. Let me just preface this by saying they don't do this anymore, but they figured out that they could make more money by first skimming the cream off the milk.
Oh, right.
Because then they could take that and make butter, and they could, they could make more money
Right.
from one milking. The problem was that it left it with pretty much skim milk, which makes a very pale cheese, kind of a pale, not particularly good cheese. So they would use this annatto, or they would use a lot of things, but mostly annatto, to color the cheese and make it bright orange. And people thought, oh, this is really good cheddar. Later, other cheesemakers began to do this to make winter cheese look more like summer cheese. Because in the summer, when the cows traditionally were out on the grass, the cheese would be much, much brighter yellow, almost an orange. So they would color it to make it look more consistent. Then she also quoted Chris Raleigh from the Raleigh Cheese House in Wisconsin, who talked about how years and years and years ago, cheesemakers would use annatto to color their cheese to hide visual defects. Sometimes there were things wrong with the cheese, and it would show up in the paste, and so they would color it to give it a nice even color, which made it look better. And then there's another little bit of interesting. I have one more little historical thing here about mimolette. I'm sure you know
mimolette. Oh my God!
It looks like a big melon, and it's bright orange, and it's always colored with annatto seeds. And this cheese was developed. It was developed in the late 17th century during the Franco-Dutch War of 1670, because the French couldn't get their Edam anymore because their supplies were cut off, and they really loved Edam and they couldn't get it. So the minister of whatever, some minister in France, sent the clarion call out to cheesemakers for somebody to make a knockoff of mimolette. So they did.
So mimolette is like what we see here as Gouda.
Yeah, well, you see mimolette here too, but yeah, it's very much like Edam or Gouda. It's an aged cheese. It's a semi-hard cheese, and it's bright orange.
It's very
it's really good. And they originally used carrot juice to imitate the color. And some people thought that they did it as a snub to the Dutch, because at the time the royal family was the House of Orange. So they made this bright orange cheese, a knockoff of the famous Dutch cheese, just as a as a slight to the Dutch. It's kind of funny.
Right. And when was that?
Well, the Franco-Dutch War was in 1670, so this would have been the late 17th century. And today they just continue to use annatto in various places, just because sometimes just because of tradition, because they've always done it, so they continue to do it, and people prefer it. A lot of times,
I mean, it's not bad. It's not bad for you anyway. I mean, it's not.
No, it's perfectly natural. It's perfectly harmless. It doesn't really give much flavor to the cheese. It's really just for color. But it's funny because traditionally a lot of the cheddar that comes from Wisconsin, a lot of the bulk cheddar is orange colored, and in Vermont the bulk cheddar is usually yellow. So some people think that's a good way to separate their cheese from Vermont. But it's very funny. This same guy, Chris Raleigh, every week he makes cheese curds. Cheese curds are very big in Wisconsin. They eat them kind of like snacks. And
what do you mean? What is that? What is that?
He takes the curds and instead of putting them in a mold and aging them, he just salts them, and they leave them as curds. So they look like they look almost like, when he colors some of them orange, and they look like packing chips, packing peanuts. They're very funny. And they kind of squeak a little bit when you eat them. They don't have a whole lot of flavor because, of course, they haven't been aged at all. They're just really fresh curds.
So it's what, a curdled milk kind of.
Yep. But the people in Wisconsin, it's a traditional snack, and they just love them, so they eat them all the time. But he makes them both orange and white, and he said the orange ones outsell the other ones 4-1, even though they taste exactly the same.
Yeah, but it's cool.
So it just goes to show you that sometimes tradition is a strong, powerful thing, and if people are used to orange cheese, they're gonna buy the orange cheese next to the yellow one, And they cost the same, so there's no issue there. But
So yeah,
all right, so I was looking through the questions that we
yes.
have, and there were a bunch of questions relating to food safety, and I thought we could tackle some of those because they're interesting.
Food safety on not on cheese though, because cheese is safe.
Cheese is safe. Cheese is
Right,
safe.
it's safe forever. Right, people understand that. It's like it doesn't go. It's already bad. I know we already talked about this.
Yeah, the only thing it's going to do is just it's going to dry out. One question:
What's
what's
cooking?
cooking?
All day.
Liver. He's cooking
you're
liver. He's cooking liver.
Oh, what's cooking? I'm sorry. That was a real question. I thought you were joking.
You thought
That's what I'm doing,
he
guys.
wanted you to define cooking?
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
that-
All I've
very
done,
nice.
I got some liver from it's called Staple Creek.
Oh yeah.
Grass-fed beef liver. Okay? And I chop it in a little bit, and I'm gonna add lemon. I'm gonna add some acid, and I'm gonna just eat it as I mean, so I eat lots of that, guys.
That would be good on top of a salad.
Yeah.
On top of a green salad.
And that's it. I'm gonna eat those as you know.
Oh, I did have one more thing to say about annatto and cheese, in that they still use it a lot they add it to the rinds to color the rinds a little bit on a lot of natural rind cheeses.
Yes, I've seen that. Right.
And which led to another question. Somebody asked, is it safe to eat the rind on cheese? And the answer is yes. It's totally up to you. Some cheeses, like hard cheeses that the rind has been aged a long time, it probably doesn't taste very good. It's probably really bitter. So it's totally up to you. But yes, the rind is perfectly safe to eat. It's just a matter of personal taste. And the fresher the cheese, the better the rind tastes. The older the cheese, the rind has probably gotten, like I said, a little bitter. It's probably not that tasty, and probably not that easy to eat. Probably it's pretty hard and chewy.
What is there's a waxy area, right? In a lot of cheese. You can eat that?
The
I mean,
what?
you can. It's food grade. You know, it's kind of a waxy, kind of a weird.
Oh, if
like plastic.
I'm talking about natural rinds, a rind that forms
well, how do you know the
naturally on the
difference,
cheese.
How
well, if it's a wax coating, like most of the Edam that comes into this country, that you want to take off. You don't want to eat that.
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt you any. It just wouldn't taste. You're eating wax. You might as well eat a candle. But what's Kenny's criticizing your mic?
No, thank you, Kenny. Right.
Yeah, Kenny, we want to hear your mic. See how good your mic is.
All right, that's better.
Thank you, Kenny.
Oh, that's much better. Oh, very nice.
Yeah,
very
sorry.
nice.
Thank you. Thanks, Kenny.
Okay, so where were we? Back to food safety.
All
Somebody
right,
asked, and this is a funny question. It's how long and how often should I wash my hands to remove germs? I can't believe anyone doesn't know that during this time of pandemic.
I know.
All they've been talking about is washing your hands. How often? Well, you want to wash your hands before you start cooking, and then you want to wash your hands if you've handled raw meat or something. Otherwise, just use your common sense.
So you need to wash your hands regularly, that's for sure. That's one of the things that to prevent a bunch of stuff. Yes, for sure. That's a good question. And it's kind of it's interesting. It's a stupid question, right?
Yeah.
But it's very important. So
it's an important subject.
Right. So your hand actually touches stuff all the time. And so there's two things that protects you, your nose, right, and your hand. So basically, if you don't wash your hand, you're gonna touch some weird stuff, right?
Right.
But if you wash your hand regularly, you're gonna be pretty safe. And then your nose, one thing that I've noticed, and that's a great question, one thing I've noticed is that trend that people are poking their nose hair. Have you seen that?
No,
They are removing they put that glue and they're removing the nose hair.
really.
I think
Ouch.
I think on TikTok there's this big thing of that, and I think it's completely crazy.
It's
You
there
guys
for a
need to
reason.
understand, right? The hair here protects you a lot. Anything that goes through the nose, all the virus, anything. So that's a lot of things. So people play with that. First of all, they really hurt them. It's too close to the brain. It's you can have a really bad reaction here. So I'm just like, I mean, I know it's not the people that listen to that podcast, they're not as stupid as that. But this is something I've seen, and it's pretty disturbing because the kids are now going to do that too, right? So basically, cannot do that. You have to be careful with your nose and your hand. Your hand you wash, and the nose is the hair protects from the viruses. And also in the nose, there's something called when you breathe through your nose, you produce something called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a very strong antiviral. This is why we have that. There's a system that it's in place from nature. We have that
Right.
system. Please don't do that. Anyway, so yes, washing your hand and don't touch your nose. Don't pick your nose either. I know I used to do that for forever when I was a kid, right? But the problem is you that's
Yeah.
the thing. Is the nose and your hand are kind of like your first kind of like where you get those viruses. I know.
It's your first line of defense,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Yeah. Well, the World Health Organization said that in India, they did a whole campaign and just getting people to wash their hands, they cut the disease rate in half.
Wow. Oh yeah.
So
Well, we,
it's a big thing.
well, hey, yes, you're right, Kenny. The hand, the word. But you know what's even more crazy? People don't wash like you, your belt, right?
Oh yeah.
So who do you wash your belt? You wash your
I
laces of your shoes,
I never touch your belt.
right? So do you remember when doctors starting to, what is that, 1900 or 1850, not too long ago, when they're starting to impose washing the hand? Remember that
Right.
time?
And people
When was
thought they
that?
were crazy.
People thought they were crazy, and they got a lot of, even from the medical group, people were against it because it was a new thing. I'm not saying
Well,
all new things
well,
need to
they
be
thought
accepted.
washing in general was really unhealthy, that you were washing
But
away protection and
one of the doctor that was completely for that got so much shit for it, right? And then finally it was accepted by most people. You see what I mean? It's like everything that, we has to go through an old thought process, old
right,
thinking, and we have to break this always. It's like
right.
it's the thing. It's weird.
Yeah. You know, it's
But
funny.
so I'm sorry, Jen,
Oh, go ahead.
just to finish. No, because actually, this is a good point. So one thing with cheese is the way it's been made by centuries is the same. We don't need to change that. It's been already understood.
Right,
So because it's
right,
safe. It's so in the old days, way too long ago, we discovered the safe way to do stuff when today we're completely lame about a bunch of stuff, right? Sorry. Yep.
yeah.
Anyway.
So it's interesting. Kenny mentioned the cell phone. Like if you
Yeah.
check your cell phone in class, you shouldn't do that, first of all. And if you do, you should wash your hands. But I
Oh no.
remember before cell phones, I remember people's telephones were the worst place in the world if they had a cold. I remember that we had this one guy at one
Oh
place I
yeah.
worked, and he was constantly going around cleaning the phones
Yes.
because he said
Yes.
these things are disgusting.
Right.
Now
Right.
you
Right.
think about it, your cell phone, it is disgusting, but you're the only one using it.
Yeah.
But in the old
True.
days, if
True.
there was a telephone on I mean, everybody used it, and everybody would hold it to their mouth and breathe into it
Oh,
and
I
talk
know.
into
I
it and
know.
spray
Right.
their saliva all over it and their germs, and then they'd hang it up, and then the next person would come. And pay phones, can you imagine pay phones like in a bus station, and people go and put this to their face, and so we don't have that so much anymore because everybody on the planet has a cell phone. So uh but it's funny.
Anyway.
But yeah, so it's common
So
sense. But and there's another question that goes along with this, and that is the whole issue of antibacterial soap. Is antibacterial
uh,
soap better than regular
you had
soap?
cash
And
too.
my opinion
You had
is that
cash
it's
too.
not. Yeah, cash too. Yeah, money. That's why nowadays what's so great is a lot of the credit cards, the newest credit cards, not only have a little chip in them, but you can just tap it. So no one
Right.
has to touch your card except you. And you just tap it on the machine and they take your money. It's
Yeah, but
beautiful.
then in like there was a time like last year or 2 years ago in France where you could go next to a person. I know in France it happened a lot, and have a receptor like a Wi-Fi
Oh, right. I've
process
heard that.
to capture your card while it's in your bag.
Yeah. Yeah, so they started
Uh,
making these little wallets that are lined with something like lead or
I
something,
know.
so
Oh
you
my
can't
God.
get it
It's
through
like
there.
every
Yeah,
time there's a new thing, there's a new attack,
somebody
right? It's
figures
like
out how to rip you off. Yeah. So
anyway. So that
antibacterial soap, I'm against it personally. I think it's like you think about antibiotics. When
yeah.
you use antibiotics when you really, really need them, when you've got a bacterial infection that is life-threatening, and you need
I don't even
antibiotics, take
I don't even know.
antibiotics.
I don't
But
even
you
know if
don't.
that's a good idea personally, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe not. But
But
anyway,
whatever.
but you definitely
That's
shouldn't take them just all the time. I mean, you don't want to take antibiotics all the time because they lose their efficiency. Your body builds up a tolerance, the germs get stronger, and it just, after a while, it doesn't do any good. So, and I think the same thing is true with antibacterial soap. I think, when they say, oh, it kills 99% of germs, okay, but what about that 1% that it didn't kill? That's the strong one, and now
yeah.
that one's left, and that's going to
Oh, yeah.
breed. It's
But that's
just,
always the same.
I
No,
think just
that's
plain soap is the best thing to wash with.
yeah,
Just
yeah.
wash your hands with soap and water.
Plus, it's non-aggressive to your hand.
Yeah,
You need your bacteria. I mean,
yeah,
you need to remove the pathogens. So basically, you need to wash your hands, right? But there's a bunch of other stuff that you need to not touch. You can't just destroy everything all the time. Anyway,
right, right.
um,
So the short answer is no. I don't think antibacterial soap is better than soap. I think it's worse. Do you season beef liver?
uh, yes, that's why I put. So yes, so what I did is I had a beef stock leftover that I was going to use. Then what I did is I bought some really good liver from the Berkeley Bowl. It's from they don't have it all the time, but I look for it, and when I have it, I buy like a couple of pounds, and then I'm gonna bake that with a bunch of garlic powder, lots of herbs. So today I use za'atar, but oregano I use a lot, so lots of it, olive oil and salt, lots of salt, and then black pepper, and I bake it, and then after that, when it comes out, I put a whole lemon and maybe two, and yes, it needs to be seasoned. A lot of people like to be sweetened. So you could do balsamic if you want to. There's a strong flavor, right? So I'm used to it and I don't mind. But liver is so important that I do a bunch like this and I just chopped it, right? So basically, right now I can eat little pieces or put that onto a salad, like James said. I can put also some vegetables.
You
But
can make
this liver,
tacos.
tacos, yeah. Oh, that's a great idea, man. And then that's it. So, and then yes, it could be a little bit strong, but thyme, oregano works it out, and then keep doing the acid
Hmm.
overused. Yeah,
Antibiotics are
antibiotic
overused. They're very
completely for
easy
the
for doctors to
completely,
prescribe.
and that's the
Um,
thing that right now we have a bacterial resistance. The
right,
more we use those, yes, but
right.
that's a whole other discussion that we are not doctors and we don't care. We
Well,
just
I'm a doctor, but I just got tired of all the money I was making, so I quit and became a food writer. It was
uh
spoiling me.
powder system. Oh, okay, shit, that's not good. So the dry powder because it was easy, Kenny, and I put a lot. That's all, and I make my own. So I make my own garlic powder. But yes, I completely understand. Fresh. You know what works really well is ginger also. So
Oh, that'd
you
be
need to
good.
spice. You need to spice that liver. I mean I like liver. I don't care. I could use no spice at all. But it's I'm trying to cook. I'm trying to work the liver actually, so it's really super palatable for everyone. But you know the best thing to do is once you get to that point, you blend it in the blender with butter and you make pate. That's all you need to do. That's why pate is much more. It's not as strong, right? You have to put a lot
Uh-huh.
of butter. So pate. like liver pate. That's what they do. They cook it in with phenols and carrot and in a juice, in a braise, so you don't have too strong of a flavor. And then you put that in a blender, and then you add butter, cognac, a little bit of cognac to give some more flavor, or just drink the cognac before and then blend the thing.
Yeah. And drink the
But that's how
cognac
we do.
after. Drink it before and after and during while it's cooking. I love cognac. Listen, just as a warning, my whole light system here just flickered on and off, so I
Oh,
don't know
it's
what's
me. I
going.
was I was I was
Oh,
trying
oh, that
something.
was you? Oh, good.
Yeah, I installed a remote. I didn't believe that would work, but it works. It's
Oh,
great.
good. I thought I was having a
Then
stroke, so I guess I'm okay.
a blinking stroke.
I smelled toast there for a minute. So we have
All right.
we have a couple more food safety questions, which I think are good to talk about every once in a while because, people like say washing
Yeah.
hands. People are very lax
Nice.
about that.
Wow. That's good.
Marrow bones
Kenny,
and
this is,
oxtails. Oh my
oh my God.
gosh.
That is, yeah, that's super awesome.
Oh my, that must have been
Yeah.
delicious. So speaking of meat, cutting up meat, somebody wants to know what's the most sanitary cutting board to use and what we think of plastic versus wood. I have a very definite opinion about this. I don't know what your take on it is.
Well,
Generally speaking, I like a wood cutting board. I think it's
right.
best for your knives. It's the most
Yeah.
sanitary because you can easily wash it.
Well, I
It
mean,
does
if you talk sanitary, it doesn't matter, right? Because they both wash very well, and plastic can go in the dishwasher if you want to. So
right.
they're both safe. It's not like
I
the
have
safety
a
one.
I have a plastic cutting board, a green one, a polyurethane cutting
Yeah.
board for cutting. And then it's bright green, and we only use it for cutting up raw meat. So if we're going to cut up a chicken or chop up the pork or whatever for a stew or something, we do it on
Now,
there, and then it goes in the sink. We wash it, done, boom.
yeah. So I want to talk
Otherwise,
about
we
that.
use wood.
So, yeah, wood is great. Anything is great, guys. Some people have a special cutting board. I
I
don't
think wood is
because
better for your knives
right.
because it's gentler on your knife edge, and also
So
wood is less conducive to bacteria
yeah,
thriving. It doesn't live very well on wood, so
right.
it is actually
Because
better.
yeah, it's a little better, and the reason is because so the wood has a particularity. It's called capillarity. You know that is? It's like basically when you pour water from the ground, right? The tree has a capability to draw that wood, that
Hmm.
water, and bring it all the way to the top. That's
Right,
capillarity. This is important. So it means what it does, it sucks the water out of bacteria, has more chances. So the bacteria can't live as long,
right.
supposedly, in the wood because of that process, especially when you wash them every day, right?
Hmm.
So it's a safer product. Now, for me, people don't understand the idea. The idea is this: I'm gonna cut meat that is not bad. So I will not see. It's always the big discussion. I don't care about the meat because my meat is clean. There's no bacteria yet. If I leave the meat here for 2 days with the juice and I come back in a couple of days or a day or one day, I will have toxins from the bacteria. The bacteria are not the bad one. So think about it. When you get a nice piece of meat and you wash it and you cut it on whatever you want, if you wash that area, we're done. So don't worry too much. It's like this coloring.
Well,
Yeah,
I worry a little bit more about chicken
yeah,
because
but
chicken
still,
can.
you guys, the
I'm not
thing
that
is
worried
this:
about it, but
expand and contract, swapping stuff in the same cut over the plastic.
yeah.
Yeah, and also it's yeah. I mean,
I mean,
you
some
know,
people like plastic because they don't use anything that they can't put in the dishwasher. So if you're completely averse to washing your cutting board by hand, then yeah, use plastic. Throw it in the
yeah.
dishwasher.
The idea is also what are the antecedents? What is where do we get all this stuff from? People don't die from like wood cutting board. So we've been cutting on wood cutting board for a long time before plastic came.
Right.
You know, I mean, my mom, my family in the restaurant, it's all wood. It's oak. It was not even maple. It was oak. So it's okay. You know, because again, if you clean your stuff right after you cut it, it doesn't matter where you cut this stuff. Like really doesn't matter, right?
And also,
And
it lasts forever. A good wood cutting board,
yeah.
you can hand it down through generations. It's like
So just wash your stuff right away. Don't let it sit. So when you have a cutting board that you cut stuff on it, you rinse it at least. Then you put it in the dish, whatever. But you cannot leave the bacteria on it. The bacteria will develop toxins. The bacteria themselves are not harmful. And when I buy meat, there's no bacteria in it. There's bacteria on the top. That's why you salt and go. But those are not the bad one, right? The bad one, they
Right.
stink in general.
Right.
So anyway.
The bad ones stink. Tell the police that. It would be much easier to catch criminals. Just use your nose. So speaking
So
of
meat,
meat,
no. So I don't care. So basically, you can use cutting board differently. You can use plastic. Don't use bamboo, and don't use glass. So bamboo is forbidden into a professional kitchen. So you know. So we can have of bamboo, but and glass is a terrible
it's
idea.
just too hard. And glass cutting boards are the most ridiculous thing that's ever been invented, except for if you want to use it just to serve things on, like a little cheese board or something, that's fine. But
Yeah.
you don't want to cut on it because it's just going to kill your knives. And the same is true with bamboo. It's just too hard. Bamboo is
Yeah.
it's an amazing substance, and it gets very, very hard. And the older it gets, the harder it gets.
So
And
yes, Kenny,
it's almost like cutting on concrete. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
so don't worry too much, guys. Just focus on buying good stuff. The focus for you is to buying the freshest and the cleanest meat. Don't worry about what you can do and how much you can keep it and all this stuff. Worry about buying the best quality possible, and then you don't have to worry about the rest.
Right.
I
And
don't care about
and
if
don't
I buy
buy
good
more
meat, I
than you're
can,
going to use at a
right?
given time, buy small quantities, use it up. And
I mean,
also remember that whatever you're cutting up, you're probably getting ready to cook it. So you're going to then take that meat and you're going to cook it in a hot pan or a hot oven. So,
yeah, we're done.
nothing's
And
going
then
to
what's
survive that.
exactly. So don't worry too much about all this little thing, this little detail that make people, do article on internet. Oh my God, it's no, stick to the fact that if you buy good food, it won't nothing is gonna happen to you. Just
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of meat,
yeah.
someone asked if it's okay to defrost meat on the counter or in the sink. I like
No,
to
no, no, no.
defrost meat out on the sidewalk in the hot sun. I just leave it in the hot sun and it defrosts really quickly, especially if I've got fish or chicken. It's a good way to defrost it. Hot sidewalk, but no more than
So
4 or 5 hours.
yeah, right. Oh my God. So to defrost meat, fish, what else? Fish and meat, I guess I would say, right? Because
Yeah, any
vegetables,
kind of
they doesn't matter.
poultry.
So you want to put it, I mean, ideally 24 hours in the fridge, right? In the refrigerator. If you're in a hurry, you can put it under a cold running water, cold, not hot. Like people do
Hmm.
the hot thing, no, because you cook them. So cold water, if you're really in a hurry, you put all your stuff in the plastic and you have some cold running in a bowl. That works.
Hmm.
You use a lot of water, but that's one way to do fast. Or it's 24 hours in the fridge. You have to put that from the freezer onto a plate because it may leak. I mean,
Right.
hopefully not. And that goes in the bottom on your fridge, not in the vegetables, but on the bottom shelf. So meat always goes in the bottom shelf, just in case there's a leakage, it won't leak on other things in your fridge. Okay,
Right.
this is important.
Right.
Same in a restaurant, by the way.
In a restaurant, it's crucial because you've got so many people going in and out of a walk-in handling things that there's very specific rules about how things get stored. The meat, the
What's
things with
regulation?
meat are on the bottom shelf, the vegetables are up higher. You want to be very careful
Yeah,
that nothing's leaking off into
and
and
that's
and
that,
what Olivier says is very important too. Put it on a plate or put it in a little bowl. Get a little glass
right.
bowl and put the meat in there, and that way there's no way it's going to leak on anything.
Right. because it's not just the inside that leaks, it's the ice or the coldness. And
Right.
you don't want any of that in the fridge, even if it's just condensation. So this is important. And it is not, I'm sorry, man, I lost it.
I don't deal with frozen food a lot.
No, me
Uh,
neither.
I don't have a
But
big freezer, so we don't freeze a lot of meat. I mean, if you live out in the
unless you know
country
that,
somewhere and you buy a quarter of a cow at a time,
right,
it's great to
right,
be
right,
able to cut it up and freeze it.
right.
But
Yep.
just plan ahead. You know that you're gonna cook this roast tomorrow, so stick it on a plate, put it in the fridge tonight, and then let it, and then by tomorrow night, dinner time, it'll be ready to
It's
cook.
gonna be
So
perfect. It's gonna be perfect.
yeah, and if it's still a little frozen in the middle, it's not really gonna matter. You're gonna put it into a hot oven. It's gonna cook. And I got a huge slab of local wild caught salmon. Nice, nice.
Oh wow.
That's too
I
bad that
can't
your local fish market is closing, though.
I can't see your whole post, man. That's I can't see the hello?
Yeah, he broke it. I'm assuming he means he broke it down into two pieces, but I don't know.
Anyway.
Kenny works in mysterious ways.
No, that's kind of stupid. Anyway. Sorry
But
guys, my thing it won't let me do the whole message. Well, Kenny, we got half of what you said, and that's very good.
fresh wild caught salmon, though, that's a beautiful thing. So here's another. I have one more food safety question. I gathered them all together. I thought we would just
Oh, nice.
deal them all. 5% on marinating from Japanese pig scramble with trimmings. Nice, nice. Kenny, I'm glad you're keeping busy out there.
Yeah,
And
right.
where is he? Where is he, in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the old New
Um,
Hampshire. New Hampshire that's dead.
New
There's a
Hampshire's
New
very
Hampshire.
pretty. It's a very pretty place. All that area up there in New England is gorgeous. I'm more
Everything is
familiar with
new.
Vermont. I've been to Vermont more than I've been to New Hampshire,
Why
but
is hey James, just hearing you, there's like New Hampshire, New England. What else is new?
I don't like old things. Yeah, I go for the
Right.
new.
But what else is new in that's it. Those are the New York.
New Mexico,
New York.
New York,
That's funny, right?
New Caledonia, but that's somewhere else.
Oh yeah,
Nowhere,
right.
nowhere,
No,
McHampshire.
that
All
oh
right.
man.
Somebody asked, what is the most common mistake made in food safety? Geez, I don't
I
know. I
think
haven't done any studies. I would say what we talked about the not
yeah,
defrosting meat
there's
properly, putting,
one thing I've one thing I've seen is people touching their face
yeah.
or their hair. So that happens a lot. It's not like,
I see
I mean,
servers in restaurants, especially girls. They'll take
yeah,
they'll constantly be
yeah,
doing this
yeah.
with their hair, and then they're bringing plates to the table, and I
I
just
know
think,
that's
oh,
weird.
don't do that,
Yeah,
don't do
yeah,
that.
I know that's weird. But
Or like
how
Kenny
do you,
said, they're constantly checking their telephones.
oh yeah, that's crazy. Half a deer, yeah. What do you do with the other half? You let him live. Oh, I know. You let him live for next year,
The
right?
front half
Right.
goes dragging off into the woods, and Kenny just takes Frody just takes the back half. Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah, half a
Uh,
deer. Jorge, have you done that? Did you go? In Norway, can you go and do stuff like that? Because I know in North America you can, huh?
well, you can hunt. You have to get a license, and at certain seasons you can hunt. But I used to have a cousin that would go hunting with a bow and arrow up in Canada. They'd fly into these places and they'd
Right.
go hunting.
No, no. I was asking in Norway.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it's the same, right?
Norway, they mostly hunt people from Sweden.
From swimming or from Sweden?
Oh, my
Oh
friends do.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
that's great. I
cool.
mean, if you know somebody that hunts and you can get and they give you meat. I mean, it's
Wow.
like knowing a fisherman that brings you fresh fish from the ocean. I mean, that's a
But
real,
I have a rule. I have a rule for that, James. Don't trust a fisherman that brings you a deer. I mean, seriously, like this is like that is not right.
well, I have a friend who's a fisherman, and he pulled up a gangster out of the ocean once and brought it to me.
Right.
It was terrible. His Armani suit kept getting stuck in my teeth. It's terrible. Yeah, I think the most common food safety mistakes are just carelessness, like I don't know, cutting up a raw chicken on a cutting board, then leaving the cutting board sitting there for the whole time you cook the chicken, and then putting the chicken back on that board to carve it. I mean, I don't know anyone that does that, but I
Yes.
think
No, I've seen
that's
it.
really bad.
Of
I've heard of it.
So no, you've seen, and what is funny, and that's actually a good point. I've seen on YouTube, when you look at some recipes, sometimes you can see the person touching the chicken. You can see that so much,
Yeah.
and then that person grabs stuff in the kitchen, and I'm like, "Whoa, that is crazy stuff."
Handling the chicken and then going and handling something that you're going to eat raw, like a salad or some carrots or something.
Oh
Yeah,
my
I mean,
God, that is.
it's
Oh wow, okay.
the wild
Is
game
that
has to be frozen. Yeah, I've heard of that. I've heard that that's true, that
wow,
you have to freeze it for so long to kill the
wow?
parasites.
That kills the parasite?
Apparently, I don't know.
I mean, the
When I kill small animals around the neighborhood, I just eat them right away. Sometimes I don't even cook them, but
that's why
from now
I
on,
always
I'm going
bring.
to freeze them first.
Since I don't drink anymore margaritas, I bring my ice everywhere just in case I found dead animals.
Yeah. Well, and I have a small freezer, but it's great for squirrels, small cats, that kind of thing.
Wow, okay, so we have to
Oh, we'll
freeze
get
stuff.
mail
Right.
about that. Yeah, so in the kitchen, as far as food safety, use common sense. Just think about what you're doing. Think about where the spreading of germs is. If you're going to, people like to rinse chickens in the sink. Well, be careful if it's splattering all over the
Yeah,
place, and then
yeah,
it's going to
right.
sit there. The water's going to sit there. You just have to be smart. Also, I don't necessarily believe in rinsing your chicken off before you cook it. I don't know
Yeah.
what good that does. People think they're making it a cleaner chicken. I don't know. I don't know what the thinking is with that. It's stupid. If there's salmonella present on that chicken, you're not going to get rid of it by washing it in cold water. It's just not, it's still there. You need to cook it. That's why you cook chicken. That's why we don't
Right.
eat
So,
chickens raw.
and also, so that's that's a good point. So the best advice here is try not to buy chicken that has salmonella. How do you know that? You don't. But if you spend the money on your food, you have much less chances to get a crappy chicken. There's always a risk, but there's much less risk for you if you buy good quality chicken than if you buy the cheap stuff. That's
It
pretty
should
much
be
where we
free
are.
range, preferably organic. The chickens that are raised in factories where they're stacked up in cages, they're packed in, they can't move.
It needs to be pastured, really.
That's where they're going to develop diseases. That's where they're going to get sick, and then that meat's going to be tainted, and that's not good. So yeah, spend a little extra money. Buy Mary's chicken, Mary's air chilled
Mary's
chickens,
Sun
or
Farm,
yeah, there's
there's a
several.
few here.
I
There's a
mean, we're
few. There's a
lucky in the Bay
few.
Area. There are people
Right,
that raise
right.
chickens naturally, and
Yes.
it's really good. And the same is true with the eggs. I mean, good eggs are worth spending a few extra shekels for.
Actually, eggs, I got a lot of the question as people ask me is that the more yellow or the darker the color of the yolk, the better it is. Well, no, that's not. It has nothing to do with it because it depends on the chicken's diet,
Yeah,
right? And thing
totally.
is, a lot of time they put colorant in it to look cool. But I tell you, sometimes they're very light. That's all has to do with what they eat. So
Right.
if the chicken is going to eat more worms, it's not going to be as orange. You see, it gets
Mhm.
more protein from the little insect or whatever
What if it
he's
eats
eating.
what if it eats orange worms?
Well, that's the thing.
I legally made
Oh, yeah.
macaronis. Yeah.
Weight of a shot. So this is like,
It's also true the color of the shell. People wonder if the brown eggs are better for you than the white eggs. No, that's absolutely has to do with the breed of chicken. A big brown chicken's going to lay brown eggs. A white chicken's going to lay white eggs. It makes
me
no
check.
difference in the nutritional quality of the eggs. In other words, cured or uncured based on addition of nitrates, but uncured meat.
Yeah.
Yeah. If bacon says it's uncured, what is it? If it's cured, it means they added nitrates, but bacon has nitrates naturally. So it's, that's something we'll have to talk about on the
And
show
plus,
one day.
why do you want to worry about nitrates?
Yeah. Again, it's a natural thing. It's a naturally occurring substance, and you're going to cook it.
Nitrates in the mouth become nitrates. That becomes nitrate oxide. And when people say nitrosamine is deadly and cancer, prove it to me. Like, enough with the talking. And unless you have no, seriously, like,
Yeah.
I'm not,
That's a great
no,
answer.
I'm super serious because the thing is, that's Seri because Seri has nitro nitrates. Yeah.
Right.
And so basically, if you need to look at studies in a new light. You need to read at the study, and the study needs to be conclusive. If it's not conclusive, and if at the end of the study it says we need more study to do that, you dump that study. Just don't read. There's absolutely nothing. There's way too many studies, 250,000 studies a year or something crazy, insane. You can read any study that you want to push your narrative. It doesn't matter. So think about common sense and then biochemistry and then physiology. You need to look at the science of what it does in the body, and then you can have the studies to kind of see what it's supposed and read a bunch of studies, see what they are. But in general, there's no study that is conclusive. Zero. They always say, well, based on what we saw, we can, safely conclude that. No, no, no. This is called a consensus. A consensus is unproven. That's why it's called a consensus. It's unproven. If it's proven, it's a fact. Okay? So,
and anytime they're doing a study to see if some food that we've been eating for 100,000 years is safe for us, you might want to be dubious about that study. Like, why? What's the point?
and when did you start that study?
Studies show that eating red meat raises your such and such and shortens your,
so much bullshit.
That's
so
nonsense. That's absolute nonsense. I also want to see who's financing the study.
Yeah.
If it's a study about the nutritional benefits of blueberries and it's sponsored by the Blueberry Council, I just find that a little shady. I mean, there's nothing wrong with blueberries. I think they're great. They're good for you, but just eat them. Don't worry about it. We don't need studies to tell us that berries are good for us because we've been eating them for thousands and thousands of years.
That's not even my best one is the coffee one.
Yeah.
Hey, the coffee, please no more studies on coffee and chocolate. Okay, we got it. Like, we seriously, like,
people are trying to find something wrong with coffee. There's got to be something wrong with it. It's like, why? It's a perfectly natural substance, minimally processed.
Wow, yes.
It's got caffeine, but that's the appeal as far as I'm concerned.
It's fun, and it's good for you. All right. So those are good questions, man. James.
Those are good questions.
Let's do something fun. Do you have a fun, stupid question?
What's this question? Oh, how do I know if mold on cheese is safe to eat? Sorry, this is another cheese question.
That's a good one, actually.
Yeah. Cheese develops mold naturally. On a hard cheese, if there's mold on your cheddar cheese, just cut it off. Just slice it off till you can't see it anymore and then eat the cheese. It's fine. The only time that it's really bad is if a cheese forms a black mold, you should just throw it out. But if you've got a piece of hard cheese in your fridge and it's got mold on the side, you just slice that, you just face the cheese, you slice it off, you eat the cheese. It's perfectly fine.
So what
Um,
about the, sorry, when it's a kind of red? That's not good either, right? Or is it fine?
That doesn't sound good. I never see that. I see typically either white mold or green mold that forms on cheese. I mean, if it's getting if it's getting that moldy, you're probably letting it sit too long. Um, but I think most molds, unless it's very, very dark, you can just slice it off and eat the cheese. It's absolutely fine. And then, of course, a lot of cheeses form mold on the outside, like Brie and Camembert have mold that is naturally there on the cheese, and that's perfectly fine to eat. Some people don't like to eat it, which, whatever. I don't care if you eat it or not. I eat it. I think it's delicious. It's sort of mushroomy flavor. It's part of the joy of eating those kind of cheeses. But eat them or don't eat them. But it's not going to hurt you, and you certainly shouldn't have any anxiety over it. Helpful positive molds for
Oh
cheese
yeah,
making.
great. That's good. Yes.
Right. And
So
those are
the mold, all the mold you see are a penicillium base molecule. So
Mhm.
all these are penicillium. So obviously they're not bad for you, but some people are allergic to penicillin, right?
Yeah, and there's been somebody asked a good question once that said if you're eating blue
That's impossible.
cheese, should you not eat blue cheese if you're on antibiotics? Because can it counteract?
Ah,
And I've never really heard any. You know, look, like we said, you shouldn't take antibiotics that much and that often.
yeah.
So if you're taking a round of antibiotics because you've got some kind of infection, then okay, don't eat blue cheese for a week. To me, that doesn't seem like a big sacrifice, but I don't think it probably has anything to do with it, because when
I
they
don't know.
age the cheese, the blue
Right.
cheese,
Yeah.
it becomes sort of an inactive penicillium. So in other words, you can't eat blue
Yeah. Yeah.
cheese as
Right.
an antibiotic
Right.
because you're sick. That's not going to work.
Right.
So it really doesn't affect it too much, I don't think. But if you're worried
No,
about
we
it,
don't
just
know.
don't eat blue cheese for a week.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know. I no, honestly don't know.
uh,
Cool.
and then there's the whole issue of raw milk cheese for pregnant women. I've heard a lot of women that really get worried about that. They'd come into
Right.
Cesar and ask if the cheeses were
I know.
pasteurized.
They should not
And
worry about that. For me, what happened is, you have to understand that the cheese pasteurizes itself. That's that's what cheese is. It's a pasteurized milk. So that's what it is. It's already pasteurized from the process. That's what, you get raw milk that pasteurized into cheese by itself. It takes about 30 to 45 days or something.
also, you can't look at cheese as all one thing. So if you've got raw milk, it's one thing to have a raw milk goat cheese, fresh goat cheese, or a piece of brie, and it's very different to have an unpasteurized cheddar, for example, which has been aged for months and months and months. So, um, uh,
That's-
I think the longer a cheese ages, the safer it is. For pregnant women, I'm not going to tell pregnant women to
yeah,
go ahead
no,
and eat
no.
unpasteurized fresh cheeses, but
But I
I
would
think
not
if you're
worry about
talking about
myself.
Parmigiano Reggiano
Yeah.
and aged cheddar, I think you're fine. Maybe stay away from Brie, Camembert, unless they're pasteurized. Um,
So Frode asked how Cesar doing. I don't know. We don't know yet. We don't
it's
know.
presently not open. Our old location is gone, and we're waiting. They're waiting for some permits on the new space. Hopefully, we'll be able to reveal where that new space is soon. We know what it is. We're not allowed to say yet. And hopefully, I don't see anything opening up this year. It's too
Yeah,
late
no,
now.
of
I
course.
mean, it's
Yeah.
almost Thanksgiving. So even if they
It's
started
too late and
construction tomorrow, which is not going to happen,
it's too
it
late
ain't
and too
opening
early at
till
this.
after the first of the year. So
It's it's too late and too early at the same time.
yeah, exactly. My guess is that it's not going to open until spring, but beautiful veining, smelled fantastic, and I had to throw it out. I hadn't inoculated it as such, so I was sure it.
Wanted to
Huh.
kill me. I'm sure
What
you wanted
doesn't
to kill
kill you
me.
makes you stronger, Kenny. That's what I say every
Yeah.
time I eat chicken sushi.
Oh, you like Russian roulette, right?
Exactly. It was trying to kill me. I mean, I would say what the veining was from and what it looked like.
Right.
It sounds to me like you got some blue mold in there, and it was making itself into a blue cheese. I don't know. Basically, cheddar shouldn't have veins through it with mold, so I don't know what you
Oh,
did
really?
wrong.
Well,
Not
he's still
cheddar,
alive.
not.
He's still alive, so he didn't do that wrong, right?
Well, he said he had to throw it out. He wouldn't eat it. So
Uh,
you're in New England, Kenny. You know how many good cheddar makers are up there within a stone's throw of you? There's no reason to have to make your own cheddar, for God's sakes.
it's like when my mom came. My mom came a few years ago to do a class with me here. It was really fun. And then I was saying, while you're here, I'm going to teach you how to make bread. And she's like, why would I want to do that? It's like down the street,
Yeah,
there's 3 boulangeries that I can pick from that are the most like incredible. Why would I
she
do
could
that?
probably
Why
walk
would?
any direction from her apartment and find a good place to buy
Uh,
better bread than she could probably make herself.
that's the thing. She's like, I'm not gonna make bread. She's just gonna buy it. All right,
Yeah,
guys, we have a few more minutes.
yeah.
Uh, it was a
That's how.
slice
Well,
of
that's
head.
certainly how I feel about cheese. I've never felt like making my own cheese was worth the effort. I mean, unless I was going to start a whole cheese making operation, which I'm not going to do. But cheese is too easy to buy. It's not that expensive. There's too good at cheese makers,
And it's well
and
made. It's well
yeah.
made from people that know. It's a complicated. I mean, it's like, where can I send it?
Oh,
Um,
good question. You could email it to me or to Olive. Olive at kitchenonfire.com. Or Stephanie, hi Stephanie, by the way. Stephanie, you have
hello.
my email,
Where?
melgren56 at gmail.com. Melgren, MELLGREN 56 at Gmail. We're going to eventually have something set up so that people can post questions here, but we're
You
not that
can. You can
sophisticated.
put. You can put
I guess you could just do the live chat.
in
Yeah.
the chat. That's why we have live chat. And so obviously live chat, you can't put too many words. I need to figure that out because it won't show the whole thing. So I need to email these people.
So,
And
by the
but the
way,
stuff.
Stephanie, who was just asking that, she's one of the smartest people I know. She's a really extraordinary person. She's really knowledgeable about politics and
How do
what's
you know
going
that?
on in the world. She's a filmmaker. She's
What? How do you know?
how do I know? I know her. I know her
Oh,
through
you know her.
Cesar. Yeah,
Oh, good.
she's
Okay.
been
My God.
a patron at Cesar for many years. We
Oh,
all love her there. All
wow.
of us. She's one of our
Oh,
favorite
no way. That's
people.
crazy.
She used to come in a lot, and we all love her, and she's fun to talk to. She and her partner Zach are two of my favorite people. They're really fun to
Oh,
talk to. You know
yes.
Zach.
Oh, yes. Hi, Stephanie. That's awesome. Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
anyway,
Fine.
well, we're
All right.
about
Well,
out of
great.
time.
Thank you. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
voting for
Beer
your
broth.
first New England winner. Oh, right. This is your first winner there. Wow.
Is that
Well,
is
good
that
luck, Kenny. I hope you have a good coat.
Kenny? Is that beef broth or beer broth? That's beer broth will be better.
I'm trying to see
All
what
right, people.
Stephanie's sign says. Yeah, so
says-
we're running out of time. What does
yes.
her sign say? What does that say?
So it's a little whatever with heart and fun stuff. I don't know what they mean, so that doesn't matter to me. I keep sending stuff to people, and sometimes I'm the weirdest reaction. I have no idea what those things mean. But anyway, thank you, Stephanie. Good to see you. Frode, good to see you, my friend. Kenny, and I want
Kenny?
to see Frode. Well, let's talk to Frode. I want to
Yeah, we got to get Frode on the show. He's a very interesting guy.
from the boat. That would be so cool.
Yeah, yeah. I got a heated coat.
The
Yeah,
boat.
good
Whoa.
job. I'm going to go put a third coat on this shelf that I'm building, but that's probably not the same thing.
All right, people. This is
Thanks
it.
for joining us. We'll be back next
Thank
week.
you guys. Next week we are here.